Hello everybody, it is I, Eternal Flame here, and today I had a funny idea for a series that I plan on doing on this channel, which is basically giving JJK characters their own Pokemon teams, and seeing how those Pokemon teams would be based on both their personality as well as their combat style, and that's what I plan to do today. Now I already have videos planned like this for both Yuji, which is the one you guys are watching right now, Gojo, as well as Yuta, but I also want to see how well these videos do, because how well these videos do will decide if other people get their own Pokemon teams, such as people like Nobara, Maki, Megami, Hakari, and even Sukuna and Kenjaku. It all depends on how well these videos do, because you guys are going to be the people who ultimately decide that. So if you guys do want the series to continue, tell me in the comment section down below, and tell me that you want this series to continue, and if I get enough comments, I will continue this series. How before we get into this video, I have to talk about the two rules I'm going to have for this series, which the first rule is every single trainer must have a starter Pokemon. They must have at least one starter Pokemon. And then the second rule is if I give any of them a legendary Pokemon, they can only have one legendary Pokemon. This is because I don't want to oversaturate a team of legendaries, and I think one is enough for everybody. It also forces people to go outside the box, including myself, rather than just looking at specifically the legendaries and who fits what. Also, I want to see in the comment section down below what team of Pokemon you guys would give to Yuji in this specific video, or just other people, and who you think their teams of Pokemon would actually be. So without further ado, that's enough stalling, let's actually get into this video of deciding what Pokemon team would Yuji have. Now, the first pick was actually probably one of the harder picks for me to pick, which was his starter Pokemon, mainly because there were two starter Pokemon in particular that fit really well for Yuji in my opinion, with those two starter Pokemon being Blaziken and Infernape. Both of these are Pokemon that heavily center around fire and martial arts, mainly using their fists and other hand-to-hand combat in order to fight. However, I ultimately went with Blaziken over Infernape. In my opinion, Infernape would fit really well for beginning of series Yuji, where Infernape is someone known for their anger, someone known to get stronger the closer they are to the verge of death, which fits a lot for Yuji considering how many times we've seen Yuji get stronger the closer he has been to the verge of death. However, in my opinion, Blaziken fits current Yuji much better than Infernape would. After all, while Yuji does have a fiery nature, he doesn't really have that fiery nature anymore. He's kind of like a cold rage at this current moment who's incredibly focused, which goes very heavily against Infernape, where I think Infernape would fit very well with beginning of series Yuji. I think Blaziken and their more honed martial arts style fits very well with Yuji, considering how Yuji's entire style is about being relentless. Where Blaziken is described as a relentless fighter, well, it is also described that the stronger Blaziken's opponent are, the more and more brighter his fire will grow, which fits very heavily with Yuji, considering Yuji more often than not grows when he fights a stronger opponent than himself. This is also because in the Pokédex it specifically says that Blaziken can hop a 30-story building in one leap, which also kind of reminds me of early Yuji's hop across the school and hop into the building to kick that cursed spirit in the face, which is the other reason why I think Blaziken just fits really well with Yuji as a starter-type Pokemon. Also, Blaziken also has the same exact ability that Infernape has of Blaze, which allows Blaziken to get stronger when it falls below a third of its maximum HP. It's just not as well known that Blaziken has this ability in comparison to Infernape, mainly because of Infernape's entire show in the anime against Electivire. So yeah, this really fits for Yuji as well. But now that we've selected Yuji's starter Pokemon, what would be the best Pokemon for him to have in order to fill the rest of his team? Well, that's where we get to the next pick, which I'm gonna admit is gonna be probably the most obvious pick I'm picking for this entire list, but that's also because it's by far and away the most fitting pick for Yuji to have, which that Pokemon is a Lucario. In my opinion, I do believe Lucario, though, is probably the most fitting Pokemon for Yuji to have out of every single possible Pokemon, with its entire thing where it has a good understanding of the aura, the soul, you know, what Yuji has been training across this entire series up until this point, so Lucario and Yuji would definitely get along on that front. Lucario is more often than not also depicted as a guardian as well. Even its ability Justified fits very well with Yuji as well, where the ability Justified is described by Pokédex as when the Pokemon is hit by a dark type attack, its attack stat is boosted by its sense of justice. Being hit by a dark type move boosts the attack stat of the Pokemon for justice, which is also just kind of the same vibe to how Yuji has grown against both Sukuna and Mahito up until this point, with Sukuna acknowledging Yuji's ideals as well, which has also allowed Yuji to go as far as landing 7 Black Flashes and then another one later when Todo had joined the fight. So yeah, I think Lucario is an extremely fitting Pokemon for Yuji, mainly because of its focus on aura, it being a hand-to-hand fighter, as well as its ability, all fitting really well with how Yuji is as a person, and I think the two of them would just get along really well. However, the next one is probably where I'm going to surprise everybody with my pick, because I don't think anyone is going to be expecting me to pick this Pokemon, at least at first. However, when I explain it, it's going to make a lot of sense as to why I picked it, which is Zekrom, the legendary Pokemon that we are giving to Yuji. Now, this might be a surprise, but let me explain why Zekrom not just works, but works really well as a legendary Pokemon for Yuji. Now up first, I'm going to talk a little bit about Zekrom's lore, mainly because I don't think a lot of people actually know too much about Zekrom's lore. Zekrom's lore is that it is the Pokemon that follows those with strong ideals, those who want to create an ideal world, which very much fits with Yuji's entire MO and how he is as a person. After all, Yuji's ideal that he always wanted to have was to be able to give people good deaths. That was the type of ideal world he wanted to create. He's also someone who very much followed in Gojo's will, someone who is very much following in Gojo's will of being able to have a strong world with strong allies. Yuji also easily being one of the most accepting people and wanting to create that strong world with strong ideals, down to the point where he even for a while tried to understand both curses and a being like Sukuna. Even though he ultimately failed and gave up, he still tried to understand them, mainly because of the strength of his ideals. Yuji has such a powerful ideal, down to the point where it just straight up annoys Sukuna, with Sukuna wanting to break Yuji's ideal in particular, calling him having a near unbreakable ideal like himself, being the only thing that he can actually rival Sukuna in. However, Zekrom has even more reason other than just its Pokédex entry of being the Pokemon of ideals, but it's also because of something else about Zekrom, which is the entire fact that it surrounds itself in clouds and lightning, with such a massive focus and theme around lightning, which is the main thing that has been Yuji's source of power up to this point. Yes, Yuji does not have lightning manipulation directly, I'm not saying that, but the thing that has granted Yuji's power up to this point is the black sparks of the Black Flash. Yuji has repeatedly gotten stronger through using the Black Flash and is noted to be one of the best, if not the best user of the Black Flash. He just is straight up the best Black Flash user that we have ever seen in canon. Sure, yes, he's not the most powerful Black Flashes, but he is by far and away the most skilled in using the Black Flash, even awakening because of the Black Flash. As the narrator themselves says, beneath scattering sparks of black, Itadori Yuji awakens. So what's more fitting for the master of the Black Flash, the Black Sparks, than having the legendary dragon Pokemon that is a black dragon that uses lightning powers and is the Pokemon known for following those with strong ideals and helping those people to create an ideal world. Like, Zekrom doesn't initially feel like they'd fit really well for Yuji, but when you really look into Zekrom's lore, you realize just how well Zekrom just fits as a legendary Pokemon for Yuji when you actually look into it. Now, the next Pokemon that I have in mind to give Yuji is a Dusknoir. Now, some of you guys might be wondering, what is a Dusknoir, and why does that fit for Yuji? Mainly because I don't actually think that many people know what a Dusknoir is. Well, it's quite simple. The Dusknoir is a ghost-type Pokemon that looks like this. I really like how it looks, but more importantly, the reason why I think it fits very, very well for Yuji is mainly because of how the Pokédex describes it, where it describes it as a Pokemon that more often than not leads lost spirits to the world of the afterlife. As some Pokédex entries say, it is said to take lost spirits into its pliant body and guide them home. This feared Pokemon is said to travel to worlds unknown. Some even believe that it takes lost spirits along with it. This is a Pokemon that actually is trying to help people that are lost and take them to a better place, take them to the afterlife, which fits extremely well with Yuji and Yuji's entire thing of wanting to give people good deaths. That's mainly why I think it fits so well with Yuji, because of this one Pokédex entry that really just describes what it's about as a Pokemon, which is guiding lost spirits. Like, I feel the two of them would be able to relate on like a spiritual level, and the two of them just would work together pretty well. As next Pokemon that we're going to go into, it really fits well for Yuji, that I think a lot of people are kind of expecting who know a little bit about Pokemon lore, which is Golurk. The main reason why I believe Golurk fits extremely well as a Pokemon for Yuji is because of the reason why Golurk was created, where in some of the Pokédex entries it does say that some say that ancient people invented Golurk to serve as a laborer. It follows its master's orders faithfully, whereas some people also believe that the reason why that Golurk protects people is because it was ordered to protect people by its master a long time ago. That the reason it was created was to help protect people, which what was Yuji's motivation that he was given at the start of the series by his grandfather, that Yuji Itadori was a strong kid and that he should help protect others, he should use that strength to help others, which is very similar to what the Golurk exists to do and what the Golurk was made for. The Golurk was almost made for Yuji, as the both of them exist to help other people. Also, most of all, Golurk has access to the ability of Iron Fist, which increases the power of all punching moves by 20%, and considering Yuji is literally known as a punch kick merchant, yeah, this fits well for Yuji as well. Now for the final Pokemon to give Yuji, I was actually in between two separate Pokemon, with those two separate Pokemons being Beheem and Pangoro. The main reason why I want to pick Pangoro is mainly because of how Pangoro is described in the Pokédex, as a Pokemon that protects people from bullies and doesn't like bullying. It also just fits very well with Yuji's vibe because we know Yuji doesn't let bullying just happen. Yuji often steps in the way of bullying and stops it with his own fists. So it also just fits very well for Yuji to have this buff Pokemon as its helper, considering that both of them don't like bullying. Also now we're giving him an actual good panda too. But also I ended up not picking them, mainly because Beheem just felt a little bit more fitting for him, and we can give Pangoro to somebody else. And some of you guys might be wondering, why is this the Pokemon that fits most with Yuji? Well, there's one simple reason, and that's mainly because of something the Pokédex entry describes about it, where it says it can manipulate an opponent's memory. Apparently it communicates by flashing its 3 different colored fingers. It uses psychic powers to control an opponent's brain and tamper with its memories. And how did he get his 2 brothers up to this point? Having their memories altered. Now, yes, I don't actually think it was Yuji who actively altered their memories. However, it was their memories that got altered nonetheless, with Choso, of course, being because of his ability and Toto being because he's insane. However, this just fits really well with the vibe that Yuji has, mainly because that's something that's believed that Yuji has access to, but at the same time, this is something that confirmed that the Pokemon has access to. Now, I don't think Yuji would actively use them for that, but I can just imagine them doing this behind Yuji's back in order to get Yuji more friends and you just becoming unaware that this is actually happening. However, this is the last Pokemon that I think I'm going to add to Yuji's team. So comment down below, what team would you guys give Yuji, and if you guys like my team for Yuji, if you guys like the justification I gave for each member of Yuji's team. Anyways, I'm gonna see you all later. Peace out. Have a good day.